my name is Trapper Wetzel, and this is my final project for CIS414. The title is Lift, obviously, and this is a powerlifting simulator. It is, of course, unfinished because this game is going to be pretty extensive, but I'm very excited to expand upon this game, and I'm excited with the design patterns that I implemented because not only do they make this game efficient in its current state, but they also make the game very expandable in an effective manner. The first two design patterns that are seen right away are object pooling and the command pattern. And the object pooling is just a simple pool for the text that is appearing on the screen right now, as you can see, stuff like that. And the command pattern is used for the buttons that are on the screen right now. Here, here, and here. The command pattern is going to be expanded out for an options menu and a stats menu as the game goes on. But right now, they're just for the squat day, bench day, and exit game day. Not exit game day, exit game button. Okay, so let's get right into the gameplay. I'm going to have the console window open, which is going to help showcase all the design patterns being used. And I will split up the design patterns because a lot of them are shown frequently throughout the lifts and they're kind of thrown at you simultaneously. So I'll try my best to make it understandable. So at first, I just want to point out two things here. We have the singleton pattern and we have the adapter pattern. This is showcasing that we're saving to a CSV through the adapter pattern, and this is showcasing that we have a single instance, which is shown here also in the game manager showing the singleton. This is also showcasing the UI observer pattern, which we will see here. Press start, we get these reps, we get the reps remaining. So I want you to pay attention to the console here, and you will see the state updates, and you will also see the strategy pattern at the same time. We see good squat achieved, which you can see the callback to the strategy pattern because we timed it correctly and we got the correct strategy for that to get the good squat. But if we go back in here and we take a little bit longer, you can see that it's slower and you can see that it's an average squat. That is showcasing the strategy pattern like I just previously mentioned. And notice all the state changes. We're now in the idle state. If we press spacebar and we're holding it, we are in the descent state. If we release it, we go into the ascent state, and then we enter back into the idle state when we hit the top. So let's finish this out real quick, because then we can showcase the decorator pattern much easier. So we finish it out. Set is complete, showcasing the UI observers again, and then we see the adapter pattern working with the UI pattern, or the observer pattern, because now we're displaying those stats that the adapter pattern allowed us to get. And then if we go into strength set here, showing the decorator pattern, press start, we now see that the reps are changing, and then we go down. Let's complete the set here. Boom, set is complete. Let's return to the main menu, which you will see the object pooling that I mentioned earlier in the command pattern here. Let's go into the bench day, showcasing the factory pattern, getting a different lift, and let's showcase that the decorator pattern does work. Click start. We will see that the bench has different logic than the squat minigame. We now have a command to press. So we go down, we're pausing, we're holding the space bar. Okay, I need to press right then. Okay, we're going down, we're pausing. I can't press until, boom, get the press, set is complete. We're going to see the stats here, showcasing the adapter pattern one more time. And I just wanted to show you that the decorator pattern does work for the bench too. We now see that instead of 3 reps, it's 5 because we chose normal. We can see all the state changes. We can see the calls to the observer pattern here. And we can see the calls to the facade pattern right here, showcasing just how useful the design patterns can be, especially for my game and as the game expands. Back to the main menu, object pooling, command pattern here, and the strategy pattern that was showed in that squat scene. You will see how, depending on the strategy given, we will get a different animation, and that is determined in the minigame itself. So let's say somebody does a squat. We're going to be able to determine the lift animation strategy by how long they've held the squat, and if they hold it the correct amount of time, they get a good squat animation, average squat, or slow squat. If they do it the correct, like most efficient way, obviously they get that faster squat, and when that happens, that will be called in here, and we determine the animation strategy because we have the time obviously through the descent. Another key part of the gameplay is the state machine. Lifts are very easy to put into states because there really is just 2 main states and 1 minor state of a lift. There's the descending state, the ascending state, and the idle state, descending being when you go down, ascending being when you go up. So, for example, the squad idle state, we're starting at the top, and when we press spacebar, it updates. We get the, the notification, hey, we're updating state. Let's go into the descending state. The lift timer is set to 0, and we are into the descending state here, and the user has to make sure they're holding down the space bar, and if they hold down the space bar for the correct amount of time, they will pass, which we will see in the squat minigame, which will implement the factory pattern that we mentioned earlier. We check, hey, did they hold it long enough? If they did, they get a rep added to their rep count, and then we notify the observers that we will talk about right now. So here's the observer pattern, which will handle the UI in each minigame. So let me go into the gameplay right now and make more sense of this. Here is the object pooling code for those texts. Right now, they're just taking in some TextMesh Pro text assets, not assets, just TextMesh Pro's materials in the game, and just pulling them, bring them back into the pool, obviously typical object pool stuff, displaying them after some time, which is just helpful for memory allocation. And then the command pattern is very simple as it stands, but this will make it very easy to expand it out to something like a setting screen and a stat screen, which I will eventually do, of course. And it is useful because, the button doesn't need to know what it's doing and stuff like that. And here's that code for the decorator pattern. As you see, the easy mode makes it a lot easier as we increase the maximum time and decrease the minimum time for the lifter to activate the lift either on the squat or the bench for their own individual lifting strategies and stuff inside the squat minigame. Hard mode, we decrease the time, and then the strength set and bodybuilding set, we add stuff to the reps. As the game gets expanded, this is going to get a lot bigger, of course, because we're going to add stuff for certain stats depending on the set that you chose and stuff like that. And here's the facade pattern, which we implemented to reduce the complexity of managing the multiple systems throughout the game. As the game expands, like I said about a bunch of these patterns, this pattern will become crucial to making sure the code is clean and easy to manage. A good example of this being useful is that when a player starts a workout set, the UI doesn't need to worry about the game logic. The UI simply just calls the facade pattern, which will call the methods that it needs to call. The exercise minigame is going to obviously use the facade pattern, and it's just good to decouple things, make the code cleaner and safer, stuff like that. And with that being said, we also will be using the singleton pattern to have just one instance of a minigame and, have all the code here, have it manage all of that stuff for the minigame chosen at the time or being played at the time. This will make more sense as we go into the gameplay, of course. Here's the adapter pattern. This just saves the stats to a CSV. This makes it so our game can interact with outside files, and which will be very beneficial as the game is expanded or we need to implement data that is common in lifting, maybe nutrition stats, lifting stats, percentages of a 1 rep max, stuff like that, and also just game progression, which will be very useful as the game gets bigger, like I've said. And this is the observer pattern, which is displaying the text that you're seeing on the screen throughout the lifts. We have something for the bench press itself. We have something for if you fail the lift. We have something if you complete an individual rep on a lift. We have something for if you complete an individual set. We also have stuff for displaying the stats and resetting the game and stuff like that. This is a very beneficial design pattern that I'm very glad that I learned, and it will be awesome to use throughout the rest of this game. And the strategy pattern that was showed in that squat scene, you will see how depending on the strategy given, we will get a different animation, and that is determined in the minigame itself. So let's say somebody does a squat, we're going to be able to determine the lift animation strategy by how long they've held the squat, and if they hold it the correct amount of time, they get a good squat animation, average squat, or slow squat. If they do it the correct, most efficient way, obviously they get that faster squat, and when that happens, that will be called in here, and we determine the animation strategy because we have the time obviously through the descent